years now, almost all debates in Cameroon centers on the Anglophone crisis or the crisis rocking the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon, with women and young girls are bearing the brunt. Tens of thousands of persons, especially women and children, are still without shelter and in desperate need for food and basic health care since they had to flee after the conflict destroyed their homes and communities. And today all eyes are focused on the national dialogue announced by the head of state. And what is the role of women in that national dialogue? Are women even involved in the process? That's what we're talking about today in today's edition of Turn Up. Stay with us. Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting edition of your program Turn Up, a program that seeks to empower women and the girl child, and we broadcast on CANAL the English every Wednesday at exactly 7 p.m. and today we focus on women and the national dialogue. Now, what are the proposals of women? Are they involved in the process? Now, we'll be talking about that, and we've invited just the right women to talk about that. If you want to participate on today's program, you have to send your reactions on the numbers you'll be seeing on your TV screens. You can equally attack us on Facebook and on YouTube. You just need to type Ndih Maureen Turn Up, and you have all our past edition. Now, we start after the jingle. And let the conversation begin. I'm surrounded by women. I said the right women to talk about women and the national dialogue. That's what we'll be talking about for the next 52 minutes. We have the first set of women. They are just two. And Josephine Ayela, she is my first guest, just seated beside me. She's of North Cameroon, the Northwest Southwest Women Task Force. Northwest Women Task Force. I can begin anyway. It could be Northwest or Southwest, or is Southwest Northwest Women Task Force. Now, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Blaine.
Now, how are you today?
I'm great. I'm doing fine, thank you.
You're freshly from Yaoundé?
Yes.
All right, from shaking the hands of the Prime Minister or handing your documents.
Oh.
As he proposes, was not.
We went there with a message,
okay,
our contribution to the national dialogue.
Okay. Now, we're talking about that in the course of the program for the next 30 minutes. We also have Delphine Mbongo. Sorry for mispronouncing.
No, it's okay, it's okay. That's fine. Many people
Now, it's not Cameroon.
Yes.
That's Southwest Northwest
Women's
Task Force. Now, you are just from the Prime Minister's office.
That's correct.
Now, you were chosen among the Women Association to give your own proposals.
Correct.
Now, the question I want to ask, what did you give us proposals to Prime Minister to end the dialogue, to end the crisis rather?
Okay. As women of the Southwest Northwest Task Force, we are, first of all, a grassroots coalition of women whose primary objective has been to make sure that sustainable peace returns to especially the Northwest and the Southwest regions of Cameroon. And on the invitation of the Prime Minister and Head of Government, following the decision by our President to call for a national dialogue, we were there yesterday with proposals on the role that women have to play and their contributions for peace to return and for it to be sustainable.
All right. Now, what are some of the proposals on your document, the document that you handed to the Prime Minister?
We had quite some substantial proposals. You know, this crisis is a crisis which was not started by women. The women are the bigger victims of this crisis. You have the women, you have the children, and you have the youth.
Okay.
First point on our list is we are calling for a broad-based, inclusive dialogue. The youths are definitely they definitely have to be part of this dialogue in an active manner. Women who are the grassroots have to make their voices heard in terms of looking for solutions to this crisis and looking for a sustainable one at that. We remember that during the president's declarations, he mentioned that constitutionally he can give clemency. Now, SNOT, to look for lasting peace, we are pleading with the president to give clemency to those Anglophone leaders, all those who have been locked up as part of the Anglophone crisis, because this for us is a way to give dialogue a chance. If you want the people who are involved in the dialogue to be part of the dialogue, they must be on the dialogue table. So we are asking for presidential clemency for these people to take part in the dialogue.
So which means that if they are not released or they are not part of this national dialogue, it's not genuine or it cannot produce results?
You know, we are coming with contributions. We are on the contributing side.
Okay.
And we know from the grassroots experience that we have, we can only give contributions at this stage. We are not imposing. But we know what we are giving as contributions are very objective. You cannot have a problem with me, right? We are in a conflict, you and I. I am not present during the dialogue. What kind of dialogue are we talking about? So SNOT thinks that it's important for the two parties involved in the conflict to be present, both in the diaspora, that the government should make the environment conducive. It should make the environment safe for all the conflict parties to come on the dialogue table, unless on a transparent and honest manner, put the issues on the table, and most especially, we should tackle the root causes of this problem in order to come out with a meaningful dialogue.
Which means that for SNOT, the dialogue can take place in Cameroon without any problem, if there's just a security and, I mean, a conducive environment for all.
We are pleading
not for a neutral ground.
We are pleading with the government. We are pleading with the government for a neutral ground. If it is taking place in Cameroon, provided the government declares safety for all the parties, it will be a good idea. However, we are praying for it to take place on a neutral ground.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you also talk about, let's talk about this dialogue. Dialogue is between two people. Now, when you look at this dialogue, what form of dialogue do you want? When we're talking about dialogue, we're saying people from the north, from the far north, from the south, from all over Cameroon, is national dialogue. And we'll talk about dialogue. We're talking about how do you define this dialogue? What form of dialogue do you want? How do you want to see this dialogue hold?
Okay, as members or as women of SNOT, and with all the mobilization and work we've been doing on the field, we suggest that priority should be given to the Anglophone crisis.
Okay.
That's the problem of the Northwest and the Southwest. Priority, top of the agenda. We are not neglecting the other regions or the problems in the other regions, no. But we suggest, or we think, that it has really, really weighed on us, the women.
Okay.
And we'll suggest that that should be top on the priority on the dialogue table.
Now, you equally said, when I look at the report that you handed to the Prime Minister, you talk about the timing, which is very short.
That's correct. That's
now,
correct.
can you elucidate more on that? Doesn't matter the timing with which you have it. It's not possible for enough for us to have.
Yes, we think that the time frame is really, really short for us to do effective mobilization for sustainable, that means for us to be able to gather enough information from all the stakeholders to be able to bring them together. Because you need to get to the grassroots, you need to get to the diaspora, and you know, there are many people involved, different parties involved. The time frame is so short, and we hope, like we made in our proposal, that it should, if they could extend the time, even the time of the dialogue proper, because it is a process.
Which means that with the way it's being carried out is doomed to fail?
Will not just say it is doomed to fail.
Okay.
I'm positive.
Okay.
We are positive, like women, because already calling for this dialogue already is, first of all, a positive step that we all should accept and acknowledge. And now, let's just put in our efforts, put our ideas together for it to be successful.
Now, Josephine, looking at this time frame, what were you expecting? What would you have proposed? Would you have loved it to be extended, to continue with the pre-consultations?
You know, actually, the Anglophone crisis, in fact, the crisis that is broken the English-speaking part of the country is very peculiar. Remember that the whole country has, you know, around the country, different regions have their problems. But now we are in the face of a very peculiar crisis, which is a historic crisis. This crisis is very peculiar, and therefore we need to give it, look at how the president reiterated. He came out on the day he declared, and he's particularly talked about this crisis. Therefore, we should give it the ample timing it needs. Now, SNOT proposed that the timing being too short and unrealistic in terms of what we have on the table, that we could faction it. We start off with the Anglophone crisis.
They're talking of the different phases that
the
dialogue should hold. That's what SNOT also gave us report. The
Exactly.
different phases. Now, can you talk more on that? Explain.
Yes, SNOT is proposing that we should hold this dialogue in different phases. We first of all hold the dialogue with the Anglophones, the Southwest, the Northwest. We table it, and then we move now to other regions. First of all, we also have the diaspora in this Anglophone crisis. So we have to table this part, and then we move now to the second phase, which is other regions. And then we move to a third phase, which is a national dialogue. Yes.
Well, have at the same time government has deployed people out of Cameroon to see people of the diaspora?
Yes, we are glad they have. And I think our proposals are not far from what they are doing. However, to be realistic, we think the deadline of 30th of month end is quite
It's too short.
It's quite short for something as serious.
But you don't talk about separatist fighters in your report.
Well,
A strategy to tackle them.
well, those separatists are human beings, aren't they? We are talking about parties in conflict. We don't have to call names. Whichever name they call them, but there are people who are in conflict.
Okay.
We think they have to be part of the dialogue. And to tackle this, we have to, have a talk with all the parties, meaningful discussions with all the parties, in order to come out with something that will really be sustainable. Because the way it is going, we pray it works. However, we think some more time should be given to it to make it more effective.
All right, now let's talk about the root cause of the of the Anglophone crisis, which has resulted to this. Can we, getting back 3 years back, now, what do you retain of the crisis, and how traumatized are the people of the Northwest and Southwest regions?
Getting to the root causes of this problem, I remember 3 years back, started with the lawyers and teachers. Okay. And it gradually, it unfolded in front of all of us. I, will talk about my own experience. I'm particularly really touched or affected, because I know I had to leave my region, move to a safer ground, you know, because of this. My economic activity that I used to carry out to sustain my family. So it has grievously destroyed the livelihoods of those living in the northwest and the southwest regions. Grievously. That, I mean, we'll say it without, you know, mincing words. It has grievously affected us. And as women, it's true, the government have been, you know, taking some actions or making some proposals towards this, but it is not good enough. Because one, we think that we, women, who form or who bear the brunt of the problem, we are not sufficiently or represented. Because if you even look at all the commissions that have been created,
have very few women.
Very few or no.
And there are commissions without women.
Very few or no women.
And there are delegations without women.
Thank you very much. So, and how do you expect others to talk about my problem without me being present? It's only me who can talk about my problem. So there should be nothing for us without us, especially the women. They are our husbands, whether they are in the state's armed group or in the non-state's armed group. They are our husbands, they are our fathers, they are our brothers, they are our children. It doesn't matter. So we have that weight, and I think we have that ability, and we are ready to make sure that we get this peace that we all yearn for.
Now, what explains the fact of how very few women represented with this, in these pre-consultation talks at the level of the Prime Minister's office? How do you explain that?
Well, you know, despite the UN Resolution 1325, the 50-50, which is written, you know, all white and black, it all happens that we are in a patriarchal environment where men are always ahead and women always struggle for their voices to be heard. Even in the National Assembly, it's obvious that women are not well represented. Even in delegations, it's obvious. However, we are SNOT. We cannot be discouraged.
So which means that's supposed to be 50-50. What's the quota here? What are we talking about here? Is it 50-50
I initially mentioned that.
Is it possible?
SNOT is asking for a broad-based, inclusive dialogue where 50 men, 50 women, and most especially the youths. The youths, I really emphasize on the youths, must be represented because they are the ones who are called to carry the arms. And you know the repercussions of that. So we SNOT, we are asking for a 50-50 representation. In fact, women should form part, a very active part of the process. It's not just coming to sit on the table and talk. We are working with the grassroots women. From when we saw the Prime Minister yesterday, we have a plan of action. We are mobilizing the grassroots women to make their voices to be heard. Because they are in the grassroots doesn't make them less women or less humans. They are just, unfortunately, the vulnerable part of the population. Now we are there for them, and we are engaging them to speak out so that their voices should be heard.
So it doesn't mean that the reports I handed to the Prime Minister had it carries the voices of the grassroots women?
Sure.
Did you sample the opinion of women down there before putting your final report and taking to Prime Minister? You
know what? If you looked at the crowd properly, you would discover that we had grassroots women amongst us. SNOT couldn't just, we are many of us, we are just like almost 200 of us. We couldn't be, you know, present, all of us, but we are representative of the women that we want to.
It's not about your interest.
No. And we have a lot of work to do. That's why we are pleading that this timing is a little bit short. Because those people who are suffering are the women in the grassroots, and their voices definitely have to be heard. We are not talking about a cosmetic solution here. Okay. We are talking about a sustainable peace process that we have to put in place.
Which means I cannot be bribed along the line.
Not at all. Not anyway.
Okay.
We are not a force. We are a force to be reckoned with.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, the fact that we don't have association of women, or let me say the fact that women are not really represented at the level of let me say the process, the pre-dialogue consultations, does it mean that SNOD could not make a force or concert or open up to other associations, or all women associations come together as one to represent the women? You need to go in different names and different banners in terms of, or in the name of association of women?
No, you know, SNOD, first of all, like we said, SNOD is a coalition. What is a coalition? It means it's made up of associations, civil society organizations, women from different walks of life, you know. And so SNOD is not a particular group of persons, but it is a coalition. Means all of this has been taken into consideration.
We saw an association of Bayam Selams in the Northwest region on the list.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking that, could you not form, the women come as one and create a block? And you have your point, you have your standpoint.
You know, the crisis does not, you know, lie, or the solution will not come from just one person. The solution will come from everybody, collective everybody. I mean, it's a collective, you know, work that we have to do. So once you have chosen your lane, you follow that lane. We cannot do everything, and we cannot be everywhere at, you know, all the time.
Okay.
But we are presently, that's why when we talked about the time frame too, because SNOD is also going into memorandum of understanding with other associations.
Okay.
Yes, we are doing consultations, and we are presently signing MOUs with other associations who have our vision.
Now before we get the first report, I want you to give, in a few minutes, your message to women out there. I want SNOD to talk to the women out there in just a few minutes. What's your message to women?
Okay, our message to women out there, especially the grassroots women, is that this national dialogue, we are inviting all women to actively take part in it, because nothing for us without us, and therefore all grassroots women should join us. We should come together to seek for meaningful solutions to end this crisis. So SNOD is extending a hand to all women to join us in this journey to seek for meaningful peace, because we are out to contribute substantially to the ending of this crisis.
Now, after the pre-dialogue consultations at the Prime Minister's office, what's next for SNOD?
We won't let the cat out of the bag now, but there's still a lot.
Well, obviously, you'll be at the national dialogue.
Sure, we'll be
where you're going to defend.
We'll definitely.
You'll defend your points, the points that you handed over to the Prime Minister.
Absolutely.
All right, now it's time for us to watch this report from one of our interns. She was in the streets of Douala to sample the opinions of men as well as women on women's contribution or proposals to national dialogue. Let's watch. We'll be right back.
Of the fact.
Can you just excuse? Can you
What I said, let me start back.
You're going to tell us how, if they put you on the dialogue table, what you are going to do.
For the government to solve this crisis, the president himself have to step his two legs to the northwest and southwest region.
You know,
Because if we want to dialogue, we need to go down to the grassroots where the problem started. And the problem started were not in Douala. Southwest, northwest.
with regards to the Anglophone crisis, with regards to the national dialogue, we are in the streets of Accra to ask citizens, to ask civilians what they will do, what their proposals will be if they have been put to the dialogue table. Join me as we ask. You're going to tell us how, if they put you on the dialogue table, what you are going to do, what you are going to contribute, what you are going to propose that the government should look into.
Well, the problem for that matter, they try for send me the government look into one for picking the way they need to go school. Number two, for the people the way they lock them, they feel calm now. Then they feel calm for dialogue table for talk where to we pass, because me and you as we stand today, I don't know where to we pass through for this dialogue matter, for this matter we pass now for Anglophone people them. I don't know. So the one that send me peace if you rain.
If you're being given a chance to be on the dialogue table, what will you propose the government to do to solve this crisis?
For me, for the government to solve this crisis, the president himself have to step his 2 legs to the northwest and southwest region, so it will bring down the temperature of our brothers and sisters. So for me, that's all I have to say.
Of the fact.
Please, can you just excuse? Can you just
What
start
I
again?
said, well, let me start back.
Okay.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that there are certain people who are not okay with the relationship between the Cameroonians and the government. So if you want a dialogue, you go to the table and go and look for those people, for them to exchange and tell you their view.
Okay, what if the dialogue is over? What if after the dialogue there are some measures they take that doesn't suit you? How will you feel?
But you cannot tell them the measures don't suit me. The measures are supposed to suit who is involved and who is to sit for it.
Okay, everybody has his own opinions.
Yes.
You know that. So I want you to tell me what you think that should come out, should be a result of the dialogue.
What should be a result?
Yes.
Like which result?
What you're expecting.
Yeah, but if you want a good result, means you have to look for something tangible or acceptable. First, in Cameroon, we have people complaining for about 3 years.
Okay.
That up to then their children are not going to school. Why can't we go down to the grassroots level and ask those people what is their problem, rather than taking people that are in the region that there's no problem and then getting them to the dialogue table? Means we are not dialoguing. Because if we want to dialogue, we need to go down to the grassroots where the problem started. And the problem started were not in Douala. Southwest, northwest. So we should go to northwest and southwest to see how we can resolve those problems and then see how they can integrate the people back in the society.
Sir, there's some internally displaced persons in Douala. That's why we also have to tackle Douala.
We don't even know them.
That's the reason.
Yes, we don't even know the intended because if they give the figures, we always refuse that the figures are not right, and we don't know the right figures. Why we are refusing the figures of somebody who knows the figure? So how can we identify them?
We cannot identify them. That's why
Yes.
we are on the streets to identify them.
How? Me? I've been in Douala for 13 years, so I cannot be an IDP. And the IDPs are the people coming.
If you didn't tell me
Yes,
this,
if you don't come, yes, the IDPs, most of them reside in the regulated areas of the town. You cannot come to Aqua and look for an IDP. If you want to look for an IDP, you go to Bonaberi, you go to village, those end of Douala. If you come to Aqua, you will not see any IDP coming to Douala, coming to Aqua.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we please have your name?
My name is not necessary. Yes.
Thank you so much, Palvin, for those reactions. It was really nice, or let me say wonderful. We have more interesting women with us here in the studio. We have CV Dongmo of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. It took me like, I don't know how many months or years to get you on board on sets, on Turn Up. How are you today?
I'm fine, a bit tired.
Now, when we talk about Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, what's it all about?
Women International League for Peace and Freedom is the world's oldest organization. Okay. It was created 104 years ago, yes, during the First World War, when women, 1,136 women came out to mobilize to say no to war. You remember that at that time, during the First World War, there were so many destructions as we have today. So women came from all over the world to say no, to do some marches, to stand against, to contribute. And that's how the movement started and became, in 1919, the Women International League for Peace and Freedom.
Okay, now in how many countries are you, do you have them in other African countries?
Yes. 16 African countries for now, like 8 sections and 8 groups. The sections are fully represented on the international level, while the groups still need to arrive at the Congress to be accepted as sections.
And then you are leading the Cameroon branch, right?
I'm leading the Cameroon, and I'm also the Africa representative.
Okay, now we also have Queen Marie Twala. You're welcome to the program, Anulo Cameroon.
Thank
now,
you.
how is Cameroon? How is Anulo Cameroon?
Anulo Cameroon is a young movement who need to participate to develop the country.
Okay.
And we are Republican.
We are Republican?
Yes, we are Republican. We have to work with all stakeholders on the country.
Now, let me start with you. Now, if you were to be part of the national dialogue, now, what would you propose? What is Anulo Cameroon proposing? Now, I'm talking you as a woman.
First of all, because a family is a place to be, because a village is a reference, because the city is the residence, and because the nation is the finale. The Secretary General of Anulo Cameroon, peace is the first thing on the country. Without peace, nothing can move. And all countries going to conflict, because there's a philosopher who said that a conflict is part of our development. Without conflict, there will not be a development. So
you must kill to have development?
Conflict
okay,
is
generally
conflict,
you don't need blood, but
yes,
at least
generally conflict is important to a country, because especially African does not like peace without conflict. So they always have conflict after peace comes.
So you're talking about, let's go for example Rwanda here. After the genocide.
After genocide, peace come back, and Rwanda is developed today because we have selfishness.
The people who died cannot come back.
I
and
know.
Enjoy the good life of today.
I know, that is life. That is life. We read more books and we understand that conflict, after conflict, there's peace, there's development. So there's nothing in Africa that people are not doing without conflict.
All right, now with the dialogue that the pre-consultations are going on, I'm still asking about your own proposal.
Yes, Anulo Cameroon has yet given a proposal to the governor of Littoral Region, and we send it to the website. So what we propose is a chart of solidarity, because we are not a politician. Anulo Cameroon is
political.
We are political.
Okay.
So we propose a national chart of consolidation. We propose that all people who are in the prison concerning the cases, let them free them, let them to be released and come to the dialogue
table.
Because you cannot dialogue with a different person. You will dialogue with the person who
the leaders of
the crisis.
Okay.
And we always say that women can be represented in that dialogue, because we discovered that all about the region, we all see men. There's no woman. Women is people that are giving birth. Women, their family are in the grand field. Women, their children in the bush. So we think that women have to participate to the national dialogue, because they have a lot to do. Like I see the tax women go to Yaoundé to see the head of the government. I think that they give a lot concerning women, and I always plead that women who are in the grand field, let us come and join all women. That
women should speak out, they should join others, to give their own proposals, so that they carry forward these proposals to government, to the head of government.
And we always think that people now, many children are here in Douala. Like me, I'm staying here in Douala, so many children are here in Douala. So we are trying to handle those children. Like Anulo Cameroon put
internally displaced?
Internally displaced. Like Anulo Cameroon put 30 child in lycée de Lopom of Bonamoussadi. So we are continuing to gather to help those children that are coming to Douala.
Okay. We also have CV Dongmo. She earlier introduced herself, but I want to take it like a specialist in conflict. Now, but what is your proposal? So dialogue.
The first thing that I feel is that dialogue should take place when we have a relative peace. So there is a need to have strong recommendation to appease the situation.
How?
You have to look into the environment. What is making people to be, what is the general request? For now, I feel that we need to go to this dialogue table trying to ensure that at least there is relative peace. It means that we have to take measures to appease the situation. My sister earlier talked about this issue of bringing those who are in prison on board. You know that about peace building, especially dialogue, is not dialogue with your friend. It's talking about with your enemy. You are a strong enemy. You cannot try to look for solutions when you are talking with your friend. You should talk with your enemy. That's why we are talking about national dialogue, because there is a problem. We don't call for a dialogue when there's no problem. And because there is a problem, we cannot just address that problem without talking to the right person. So I feel that how did this problem start? Where are the people complaining? We should address the difficult question. The dialogue table is about putting the question on the table, even if they hurt you. Yeah, because we need to look for sustainable solutions. Women International League for Peace has a niche. Our niche is addressing the root causes of conflict. And I feel that if you don't go properly into what push people to do this, you kill all what we call armed groups, you kill all what we call Boko Haram, the problem will not be solved. So it's better. So that's why I have the same feeling with others that in terms of timing, there is a problem, because the first phase is to understand the root causes of conflict, and that's what we are doing on the field now as we will. As
your organization, that's what you are doing on the field.
No, not only my organization, with the partners, yes.
Okay, now let's look at the procedure through which government is using to solve the problem. Is it the right procedure? As an expert in conflict resolution,
you know, we are, as an African representative, I've been in touch with other countries, like 12 other countries, where dialogue has taken place. Unfortunately, out of the 12 national dialogue, about 6 failed. Well, when I say fail, they took place, but when it came to implementation, it failed. Why? Because there are some requirements for any dialogue. A dialogue is an exercise, a mediation exercise. Therefore, there is need to have a proper format. For example, when you cannot talk of dialogue without properly identifying. We have to sit. In 2016, we conducted a study in Cameroon to support the Minister of Women Empowerment and Family, the ministry, to draft the National Action Plan. So we conducted the study in Cameroon, a national study, to enable the ministry to know what are the areas to invest in peace in Cameroon, what are the key areas of the National Action Plan. So one of the recommendations that we came out with was to have like a national mediator. Why? Because this tour that we made in Cameroon was also a way to train and to listen to people in Cameroon. So we were able to understand that some people knew even 1325. So what we had to understand, do they even know that women have their role to play? And also, what is the impact of conflict? So at the end of the day, one of the key recommendations that we proposed was to have a national mediator. Why? Because when we asked the question about who are the actors of conflict or to bring solutions, so it was like many will say that we go to the police, but at the same time they don't find solutions there. And because we understood that there was a need to address it in a sustainable way, we proposed the national mediator because it's the only one that can be listened to. As my sister said earlier, when there is a problem between two brothers or two friends, when you call the elder brother of one to come and settle the problem, the other will not feel comfortable, even if the other one is. So I feel that in terms of process, there is there is a problem for me.
There was a problem. What is the problem?
The problem, I've said that the problem is, first of all, who are the parties? I'm not against the Prime Minister, no, not at all. But I'm saying that for me, he's not the proper person for that.
Okay.
Yes, for example,
they should need they need for a neutral.
They will have accepted our proposal in 2016 that we will have gotten in Cameroon a national mediator. But that's not a big issue. But still, we can have other people.
Which means that what you're trying to say is that government sits on the other side, the other party sits, and there is a neutral party in the middle.
And that neutral party at the beginning is not to start talking about dialogue. It's to start organizing. Yes. So we have the state, we have another neutral party, and we have other people who have undergone this process in their countries. We sit together and then we plan. You cannot just come and say that you have a dialogue in 2 weeks' time. No, that's not okay. So you need to plan to know who are the people going to involve in this dialogue. How are we going to take the decision? Because the danger is that we might go to the dialogue table and at the end of the day, we will not implement because we didn't agree on how do we take decision. And also, when do we take decision? Are we going to the dialogue for dialogue's sake? No. How do we implement the decision that come after that? So it's very important to discuss on all this. What is the women's representation? What is the youth representation? So this has to be discussed earlier. And I watched TV and heard so many people, including political parties, high-level officials, saying that they were aware on Facebook. No, that's a problem. We need proper communication because we don't want to come out of this more divided. No. It's very, as they rightly mentioned, we have lost a lot in this crisis. So there is a need to look for proper solution. It should be as inclusive as possible, and nobody should be left aside. I want to take the case of Douala here, the Douala region. Okay. Just yesterday, I was able to look at the list. No, my sister, there is a problem. It's not about politics, please. It's about human life. Many women, many children are dying, and then you are involved in politics. No, it's not about politics. Whether you like somebody or not, you feel that the person needs to be on the project. Be it. If not, why are we sorry? I feel that the process should be a kind of, but for me, I'm not hopeless. I still feel that all the consultations that are being done.
My hair still heals some fruits. Birds, you are not still satisfied.
I'm not satisfied, but I'm not hopeless because I feel that people are going. All these people who are meeting the Prime Minister are giving him suggestions. So I'm very sure that, and I hope, that's my hope, that when he gets all this, he should kind of reschedule everything, taking into account this.
Now, Queen Marie Douala, now, when you look at all the delegates from all the regions, when you go through the list, do you think that the root causes, examining the root causes of this dialogue?
Je pense que la problématique
is it about their interest or getting into the root causes and then subduing it?
C'est là je vais ça. Je pense que la problématique sur le dialogue.
You have to mix it.
Yes.
If it's in pidgin, you talk.
The problem of the dialogue in our country is to identify the real problem. Yeah. Because if the government does not identify the real problem, there will not be a solution. After all the debate, we still have the same problem. So first of all, they have to identify the problem. I accept that there is a problem. There is a problem. And because the president accepts that it is a problem, that's why he put in place a dialogue. But the process of dialogue is too short. They have to take time. Because we have 25 million of Cameroonians, and 25 million of Cameroonians have something to say. So you cannot take 5 days to resolve a problem who is staying 3 years today. So it is not possible. For me, it's a joke. We don't have to joke with human life because people are dying a lot. If you see in the southwest and the north region, there is no people again there. We can count people now in southwest and northwest region. So Mr. John Goody is not the proper person to lead this dialogue because his position, like a head of government, he doesn't have no power. We know the power of the Premier Minister in this country. Le Premier ministre n'a pas de pouvoir dans ce pays. Il est tout juste là pour un statut administratif.
You're coming up again in French.
No, let me go.
Speaking pidgin, this is an English program. Even look at the grassroots to get you.
Yes,
there's no problem if you have to speak it in the. speak even the English that is pidgin English, I will accept it.
Okay. No, John Gute does not have power to lead this dialogue. We need a mediator because people who are suffering to this crisis is English-speaking region. It's not French-speaking region. We know that all of us will have problem, but it's not good to always sacrifice English region to solve some problem in the country. Okay. Because I remember for half GCE board, Anglophone region die before they get something. It's not good. We have to understand and listen to the population because I know that for this dialogue, they will never listen to a common person because I have a bad example that I go to the governor office in Saturday to the meeting. We stay there 6 hours without drinking water. But after we finish to make the debate, they goes us big people, they goes to sour, they drink and
which is
leave.
Not correct.
Which is not correct. So it will be the same thing with this dialogue. They will take those papers, those reporting and put it inside the cassette, in the drawers. So we need that the process with a mediator. We need mediator, or we go to a neutral place.
Ground.
Yes,
okay.
And they must release all people that are engaged to the crisis, because if they don't release them, they will speak with who? Okay. The dialogue will be with who? Okay. We must release them.
So those in prison are the enemies?
Yes, the enemy, because people who are in the government, they don't have problem. They don't have problem. C'est les petits qui ont les problèmes au Cameroun.
Okay, you come back to French. Now, I know you're angry, that's why you come back to French. Now, Sylvie, now I want to ask, now, let's take examples in other countries where this type of problem happens. And we had women who are at the forefront, or as a conflict expert, how did it happen that we can relate it to Cameroon? Because we're trying to look for solutions here as well.
As I mentioned, the niche from our perspective and other perspective from other is to address the root causes. That's number one. Number two is a holistic response. Okay. When you have a problem, I'm not saying that I know very well that the Northwest and the Southwest are deeply affected, but it's about holistic response. I was in Mora 2 weeks ago as part of this gender conflict analysis. Okay. I heard women and the speech. I listened to the head of state when I was in Mora with the women on the field. On the same day, when we were conducting focus group, I started hearing them saying that, okay, he's talking about others. So I mean to say that it's very important to address issues in a holistic way. Why? Because I feel that this Anglophone crisis is a consequence of something. Yes, therefore it's very good to say what made the Anglophone crisis to come into being. It's about, that's why it's not only saying that there is an Anglophone, you have to know, you cannot address the Anglophone crisis without asking yourself, what even brought up the Anglophone crisis? So it's about really taking time to do proper analysis. That's why we started in 2000, and this is our contribution to this dialogue. And a dialogue is not a 5 day, even if it's 1 month. We are going to do it the way it's going to be taken into consideration, because whether now or later, because the exercise you are doing, we started in July. Even a few years, I just mentioned a study that was to assess the impact of conflict on women and girls. But now, since July 2019, we are conducting a specific study to analyze the gender dimension in the conflict. What do we want to achieve at the end of the day? First, to understand the conflict dynamics in all the regions, in all the countries. To understand what are the different type of conflicts, the issues on the field. We want to understand what are the existing peace-building mechanisms. We want to understand what are in terms of humanitarian needs of women. So this is a holistic study that we want to make, to have a diagnosis, because at international level, the organization that we are working with, the dialogue that have been conducted in those countries started with this study, because there is no need. I went to to Zamai, like 1 hour from Mawa, still 2 weeks ago. I was able to see on a placard 5,600 and le tapis de table. Yes, that were given to a refugee camp. So it's good, but why do you need to get a carpet. You see, as an international organization, when you go to a refugee camp or to IDP camp, and you give carpet, what's the need? So the problem is that there is a proper need to assess. Even if it takes 6 months to assess it, it's very important to be able to propose sustainable solutions. So the study that we are doing is to be able to have a proper analysis, to understand the dynamic, and to get from different stakeholders what can be the solution. As we are talking now, the teams are in different regions of conducting this study. So it's very important, and it will be helpful for the government to use it as a tool.
Were you called up for the pre-dialogue consultation
report? No, we were not called up, but
your report is at the Prime Minister's office.
Let me tell you, as we were conducting this study, there was this call. Of course, we were already asking women on the ground what is their dream. So when the president called for dialogue, what we did was to call a meeting with women. So we were able to have women from 8 regions of Cameroon to strategize together. How do we go about? How do we go into this dialogue? So we came out with some strategies. And one of the strategies is to have a common, just call it Cameroon Women for National Dialogue, as simple as that. To bring out all the women's dynamic in the country for the dialogue's sake. And we had
one standpoint to speak in one voice.
So we have a calendar. Today was not the last day, because we are still of getting input. There are 2 drafting teams writing our common position paper. So we are communicating on it. So as they pass, we have more women organization joining. And on Saturday, we are going to have a workshop in Yaoundé to validate our position paper. And then we are going to hand it to the Prime Minister.
Queen, now what's the strategy to bring women on board at level of Anulu Cameroon? Because I think that there are women who are a little bit, I don't know if they are shy, they need to wake up, because it concerns women, it concerns their children, it concerns their own future.
To make women to wake up and to join this women's conference, it's not very easy, because the mentality of women in Cameroon, they don't like to involve themselves to nation problems.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Because I think more women are waking up.
I'm sure about that, because
it's
3 years I'm leading this movement. This movement, I try to drag many women, youth like me, to come and join us to make a block so that this crisis stop. But they don't have that envy. They don't have it. But I think that if somebody will have a certain level of position, call to the dialogue and women's dialogue, and give some motivation, they will come.
Which means there's not only association from Northwest, Southwest that should be involved, associations in the French-speaking parts of. Are you concerned about it? Do you talk about the problems of women in the Northwest and Southwest region?
I talk
it's about their own problems. I forget about it.
No, you know that I went to Boya, I went to Ekona to support people in the prison. So because I did not bring it's in the social media, I went to Ekona to support the women. I tell them that it's not good to them to go and stay in the bush, because women are bleeding, so they cannot stay in the bush, and when the bleeding come, how can them do? So it's good to go maybe to the governor office and go and stay there. If the
women also think about their own safety when they are going there.
Yes, but most women I talk to them here, they are in Douala here. I always visit them, and I always support them with my association. So for me, the idea is very good. C'est même très louable. C'est une initiative louable. It's very good. So now is how to bring them, how to chat women, and convince them that they are important in the country. Women, I always say that woman is not just to cook and to go to work. She must be dynamic and work to the development of the country. So now that is the time of dialogue, that woman must come out and have something to say, because men are always taking.
Men have been leading.
Men have been leading, and women are always be in the background. No, it's not good. So I'm calling to all Anulu Cameroon women to join this initiative that will say
And partners.
And partners. So I'll tell you that I will part of
the association, or the movement
or
that
the
is going
movement.
to be
Yes.
that's going to be created.
Yes.
Now, just in a few words, your last words to women. It's true, we were talking to women a while ago. I'll ask Madam Dogmo CV, your last message to women, because we're talking about women and a dialogue. Now, what are you telling them briefly? We know your proposals have been tabled at the Prime Minister's office. You've been on the field doing your own consultations with the women right in the suburbs. Now, what's your last message to women? A lot of them are watching right now. It's time for the women to wake up and also defend what is theirs.
My message is that we are stronger together. I don't have any other message than that. We are stronger than together, and then we have to stand where the shoes of those women who have lost somebody in their family and really feel it and really get into this process. We should not shy back. We should try as much as possible to bring our contribution onto the table in one other ways. That's why we are recommending that it's not about being on the table. It's about making sure that our suggestions reach the table. So it's time women really come out together and try to be stronger as they are moving into this process.
All right, now we also have Queen. Just your last words, just in 1 minute, to women.
Yes, to women, I want to say that women can put back their problem and their need and focus to the problem of the nation. So I invite them to come and join us to be part of this dialogue so that peace will come to the Northwest and the Southwest region. Also, to participate to the development, social development, economic development, cultural development of this country, because we are suffering a lot. Okay. We are suffering, especially nous de la basse classe.
The pressure always coming. She's francophone, is trying to speak in English and make her voice heard. We had women from the Women Task Force. We also had CV Ndongmo of the International Peace Movement and Queen of Anulu, Cameroon. The program was a turn-up. We talked about women and their contributions or proposals to national dialogue. We want all the women, wherever you are, to send your own proposals to the dialogue table, because we think that it's your right, because women are bearing the brunt of the crisis right now in the Northwest and Southwest regions of Cameroon. You are the giver of life and you must protect that life. That's why it's time for you to wake up and give your own proposals. The program was Turn Up. Thanks for watching.